With every new awards season, there are a few guarantees. Great films will get snubbed and acceptance speeches will go on for far too long. But there's one phenomenon I find far more compelling: the Oscar villain. Almost every year has that one film nominated for a bunch of Academy Awards, including Best Picture, that nobody actually wants to see win. In this video, I want to break down what it really means to be an Oscar villain and how a film becomes one. First, it's important to separate Oscar villains from Oscar bait. The two often overlap, but they're not the same thing. Oscar bait is usually defined as films that feel engineered to win awards. Stylistically safe, thematically earnest, and built around ideas the Academy historically responds to, such as redemption, artistic struggle, or social injustice. These films are often biopics or period pieces, though not always. But not every film that looks like Oscar bait fits into that category. For example, I would never call Mank Oscar bait. It's too cold, too stylistically expressive, and not nearly crowd-pleasing enough. Green Book, on the other hand, is a near-perfect example of Oscar bait. It's accessible, polished, and emotionally legible, but ultimately shallow. And yet, despite their differences, Mank and Green Book share one crucial thing in common. They were both Oscar villains. Whereas Oscar bait can be defined by intent, Oscar villains are defined by reception. As much as I love Mank, it was a film people largely responded to with indifference, admired for its craft, but rarely defended with any real enthusiasm. Green Book, however, was a film audiences felt they could see right through. It was designed to appeal to the broadest possible audience, as well as an Academy often criticized for rewarding comfort over challenge. So while Mank and Green Book got rejected by audiences for very different reasons, they ultimately became the villains of their own respective award seasons. But what's crazy is that Green Book didn't even feel like the biggest Oscar villain of its own year. That title belongs to Bohemian Rhapsody, a film whose award success provoked confusion, frustration, and outright disbelief. While Green Book felt sanitized, shallow, and overly sentimental, it was at least competently assembled enough not to feel completely out of place alongside stronger contenders like Roma and The Favourite. Bohemian Rhapsody, however, had no justification as a major awards contender beyond Rami Malek's performance as Freddie Mercury. Nevertheless, it received 5 Academy Award nominations and went on to win 4 of them, including Best Editing, a decision that has since become one of the most widely mocked wins in Oscar history and frankly, more embarrassing than Green Book winning Best Picture. To be blunt, Bohemian Rhapsody is one of the clearest examples of the uninspired, formulaic musician biopic that Hollywood continues to churn out. It follows a tired checklist: the rise to fame, the hit songs, the excess, the struggle, the triumph, without ever offering much insight beyond surface-level imitation. That structure already felt exhausted in 2018, which makes the Academy's enthusiasm even more embarrassing. The way I see it, Oscar villains can be roughly divided into 2 categories: bad movies that don't deserve to be awarded, and good movies that people don't care enough to see awarded. Bohemian Rhapsody and Green Book fall into the first category, but I personally find the second category far more interesting. If a movie is good, why wouldn't you want to see it rewarded? In the case of Mank, it's because people felt at a distance from the film, and in many cases were simply bored by it, despite others, myself included, adoring it. All Quiet on the Western Front is a similar case, though not quite the same. The film was widely praised, but once it picked up 9 Academy Award nominations and quickly became the favourite to win several of them, a sense of fatigue began to settle in. Yes, the film was intense and technically impressive, but it also felt inevitable, the kind of bleak historical war film that voters reliably gravitate toward. Instead of excitement, its dominance created a feeling of predictability. After the award season ended and the film walked away with 4 Academy Awards, the conversation cooled. The film has continued receiving praise, though for a brief moment, people simply grew tired of it. In this case, the film didn't suffer from being bad, it suffered from being almost too competent. Now that I've given you my definition of an Oscar villain, as well as the different types of Oscar villains, I'd like to list off a few more examples quickfire style. Belfast. Who even remembers Belfast? I suppose it's a competently made film with decent performances, but it's otherwise wholly unremarkable and practically begging to be taken seriously. Maestro. People rejected this film before it was even released. Again, it's competently made and well acted, but ultimately uninviting and somewhat performative feeling. Don't Look Up. a film whose blunt satire felt more exhausting than insightful and whose awards presence quickly turned grating. Emilia Pérez. I recently made a video defending this film, but at this point, there's no denying that Emilia Pérez is the most viscerally hated Oscar villain of all time. Check out my video for more information on that. And the final Oscar villain I want to talk about is The Power of the Dog. This was the overwhelming favourite to win Best Picture, and that alone caused many people to grow tired of it. Ironically, a lot of those same people would later say that they wish The Power of the Dog had won instead of CODA. I suppose CODA could also be considered a little bit of an Oscar villain, though it's probably too likeable to fully earn that title. But hey, in the end, terms like Oscar villain and Oscar bait are arbitrary. They're vague terms that ultimately don't determine the quality of a film, nor its value. However, the idea of almost every year having at least one Oscar villain is fun to me. Having a film to collectively root against makes things more fun and exciting, as meaningless as it may be. After all, aren't awards ceremonies in general kind of meaningless? It's all just a bit of fun, and as pointless as this video may be in the grand scheme of things, I'm glad I got to talk about this strange phenomenon that comes around about once a year. But the question is, what will this year's Oscar villain be? In my opinion, it's still up in the air. And that about does it for this video. See you next time.